Namaskar, greetings, folks. Today, I'm going to discuss a very popular tool used in technical analysis. It is called the Fibonacci retracement tool. In the first part of the video, we will discuss the origin and history of Fibonacci numbers and also look at some of the ratios that can be arrived at by playing with the numbers in the sequence. In the second part, we will look at how it is used in making trading decisions. If you are not interested in the mathematics of the numbers, then you can skip the first part and go straight on to how it utilized in trading. But before we start, a quick word of statutory disclaimer from me. The information being shared in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. It should not be construed as an investment advice. Individuals are encouraged to do their own research and assume full responsibility of any actions taken based on the suggestions provided. Upon research, there is historical evidence available that the very first use of this sort of a sequence was done by an Indian Vedic guru called Acharya Pingala about 200 years before Christ. He used that sequence to explain the patterns of Sanskrit poetry. Several centuries later, an Italian mathematician called Leonardo of Pisa, he was trying to solve a theoretical problem of the growth of population of rabbits by starting with a pair, and he was trying to figure out how the population will grow if they were to multiply every month. And what he discovered was a sequence which was previously discovered by Acharya Pingala, and later on it came to be known as Fibonacci sequence. Fibonacci was another name for Leonardo. The very first time this term Fibonacci was used was in the 19th century by a theorist called Edward Lucas. Let us now take a look at what the sequence looks like. So just concentrate on the left side of your screen. You start with the number 0. The next natural number is 1. You add these two to get 1 plus 0, 1. The result of that is added to the previous number. So 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. The result of this with the previous number, 2 plus 1, 3, 3 plus 2, 5, 5 plus 3, 8, 8 plus 5, 13, 13 plus 8, 21, 21 plus 13, 34, and so on and so forth. So this sequence is effectively obtained by adding the two consecutive numbers, starting with the 0 and 1, add those two consecutive numbers to get the next number, and so on and so forth. In a mathematical notation, it can be represented by Fn is equal to Fn minus 1 plus Fn minus 2. Basically, it says in order to get a number, you add the previous two numbers. The condition here is n is greater than equal to 2 because the first numbers are 0 and 1. That's where you start with. An interesting aspect of this sequence is that if you draw rectangles with sides equal to the numbers 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on and so forth, then you can lay them side by side to form a pattern like this. So the first rectangle, the second rectangle, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on and so forth. And if you were to draw curves around the middle of these rectangles and join them, it forms a kind of a spiral. And interestingly, you find a lot of these spiral figures in nature. She cells, the way storms are formed, the way some of the galaxies are formed, a pine cone, and some of the leaves. They are all naturally existing spiral forms which seem to follow the arrangement of rectangles formed by Fibonacci sequence. So, whilst it is quite interesting to note that there are a lot of naturally occurring patterns that seem to follow Fibonacci sequence, they are equally interesting ratios that can be arrived from using the numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. One such ratio is called the golden ratio, which is obtained by dividing any number in Fibonacci sequence by its preceding number. The farther you go in the sequence, the closer you get to this number. It's called the golden ratio. In mathematical notation, it can be described as this: a number divided by its preceding number, as long as n is tending towards infinity, meaning that the larger n gets, the closer you get to that golden ratio. This ratio is found in a lot of natural arrangements of things. Let me show you working of this golden ratio via an Excel sheet. So I will start with number 0 here. Next number is 1. The following number is a formula which is this plus this. Now I repeat this formula to obtain my series of numbers. Now, if I divide a number by its preceding number, obviously I cannot do it with 1 divided by 0 because division by 0 is not allowed in maths. If I start here, this divided by this number, you get a 1, of course. But if you repeat the formula, go further down in the sequence, there comes a number 1.618034. And as it increases, this number tends to stay the same. This is your golden ratio. A lot of naturally occurring patterns and phenomena seem to have this golden ratio. The next ratios I talk about are also equally interesting, and they are the ones that are used in trading. Okay, so just understand these well. To arrive at these ratios, I pick up any four consecutive numbers. Okay, here I pick up 13 to 55 that I've highlighted here. Okay, and you start backwards by dividing the top number, which is this. So I'll use a formula, this by itself, that will give me 1, of course. Then in the next one, I divide the next number by the fourth in the sequence. So third by the fourth, you get 0.61818. Then the second by the fourth, you get 0.38182. And then the first by the fourth, and you get 23.636. If I express this as a percentage up to one decimal point, then we get 23.6%, 38.2%, 61.8%, and 100%. So basically, what it means is that 13 is 23.6% of 55, 21 is 38.2% of 55, 34 is 61.8 of 55, and 55 is 100% of 55. Now, quite interestingly, you pick up any numbers, any four consecutive numbers, and do this math, you will get exactly the same numbers. I use these as formulas. So if I copy this anywhere, let's say I'll copy it here, you'll get exactly the same numbers. So I'm not copying the numbers, I'm copying the formulas. Please note. I just showed you how to calculate some ratios using four consecutive numbers. If you were to add two more elements to those numbers, one 0% and a midpoint at 50%, then the levels that you get are the key levels which are used in trading as key support or resistance levels. Going forward, when we talk about technical analysis and using Fibonacci levels, we will be using these five levels: 0%, 23.2%, 50%, 61.8%, and 100%. Now, let us look at how to utilize Fibonacci in our trading decisions. The good news is that you don't have to calculate Fibonacci numbers or Fibonacci ratios. Most of the platforms provide this as a ready-made tool in your toolkit. I'll be using just a couple of charts to drive home the point, and it can be used in any time frames. It can be used both for buying decisions or selling decisions. As a first thing, when you are looking at chart based on your preferred time frame, you look at the lowest point and the highest point in your time window. Mind it that the lowest and the highest points can be different if you squeeze more data in. But right now, just for the purpose of explanation, I'm using this window and I'm picking the lowest point here and the highest point here. Okay, so let me insert the tool Fibonacci retracement. I join the bottom of this move to the top of this move here. And what you see is that the 0% is at the top, 23.6% is here, 38.2% this line, 50%, 61.8%, and then bottom is 100%, which is the start of the move. What these levels represent are that if this move was to retrace back, I mean, if this rising trend was to break down, then these are the points where potential bounce in the direction of the overall trend will happen. So these will act as potential support points if this was to break down. And that is how you use the Fibonacci retracement levels. Let us assume you were long on this and you want to add to your position. When the price does swings and it comes back to this level, you could potentially add here, or it comes to this level, you could potentially add here, and so on and so forth. If you think that a break of this current price structure will be bearish, then you could potentially start a sell position, a short position. And if you start a short position, then these points will act as your target points, target profit taking points. Also, if you look visually at these levels, now this level is very close to the support point here. This level is very close to the resistance point here. This level is very close to the support here. This level very close to the support here. So even though we did not know where these levels will appear, they tend to appear in the zones where a previous support or resistance has taken place. And that is the beauty of Fibonacci retracement. Now, if I was to look at a different time frame on this very chart, let's say we go to daily chart, then the lowest point I picked was here, which is not quite the lowest point on the daily chart as you can see now. If I was to redraw this using these 2 points, then you'll get different levels. And again, the levels are now farther apart from each other because you are dealing with a higher time frame. But again, if you look at some of these levels, they are aligning so meticulously with the supports and resistance levels that you wonder how it happens naturally. Let's look at another chart. If I just take this move here, within this move, you could see that there was a bounce of 38.2%. The price action never came back here, but it bounced off 38.2%, then broke the previous highs. So this is how important Fibonacci levels can be. An important point to note with the Fibonacci retracement, as with any other tool, is that this is not exact. When you draw levels and when you look at some of the bounces and consolidation and so on and so forth, it may or may not happen exactly at that level. So there is a degree of using your own judiciousness about putting these kind of tools to use. As I always say, use more than one tool to make sure that you're getting probabilities in your favor. Hope you find the information presented here useful. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to put them in comments and I'll try and answer those. If you like the contents of this channel, please like and subscribe and also share with other people who might benefit from this. Thank you. Namaskar. See you soon again with some new videos.